Well, there are growing concerns or calls even from some quarters for Biden to step down ahead of the election. Some are proposing that his VP, Kamala Harris, replace him as candidate for the Democrats. After a dismal debate performance, Biden's candidacy is still under question. Let's talk about it with international relations expert, Professor John Stremlau. Prof. Stremlau, good morning. Thanks as always for your time. We appreciate it. It seems as if every appearance that Joe Biden undertakes, since the June 27th presidential debate is going to come under scrutiny. We played one little piece there where he made, that gaffe and referred to his VP as Donald Trump and not Kamala Harris. But there was also, when he was talking to reporters about NATO support for Ukraine, had to correct himself in introducing Ukraine President Volodymyr I'm having a similar moment. Introducing Zelensky, referred to him as President Putin and said, "I'm so focused on beating Putin." These are moments, which the public and the Americans, no doubt, are looking at as a way to question his competencies. Your thoughts on what we've seen insofar as his public appearances over the last couple of days?
Well, he's always made flubs in his speeches. And he's had a history of dyslexia going back to a boyhood time. And so I admire Biden enormously, but the hard facts are that he'll be 87 when if he completes his second term in office. And 56% of the American people think he's too old to run again. And of course, the debate that he had with Donald Trump tended to reinforce that, although Trump is 78. But I like to draw comparisons to our own Nelson Mandela, who felt he was too old at 82 to continue on for a second term. And that's exactly the age that Biden will be if he's inaugurated in January of 2025. So I hope he stands down, but he was certainly bullish about his candidacy in yesterday's press conference, and he does not show any indication of a willingness to compromise now. But it's going to take his family and the persuasion of political leaders to get him to focus on what would be his best legacy, and his legacy would be to stand down, in my view.
And we'll come back to that in just a moment. I just want to quickly sort of refine this piece, Prof. Stremlau. It's not so much the issue of age, it's the issue of competency, and perhaps even lucidity, right? That is more the central question here rather than the number, 81.
Well, the competency is number one, but we're all growing old and we come apart at different times. And so therefore, it looks to me to be the fact that he's not the same guy that was elected in 2020. And he will only get increasingly worse if he's reelected. And at the moment, he and Donald Trump are running neck and neck at 46% each. And the approval rating for Trump in the American people, and Gallup has been following this since Harry Truman's day, is only 38%. And the only two presidential candidates who were lower than that were George H.W. Bush and Jimmy Carter, and they both lost in their bid for second term. So historical precedence is significant here, and I think that he will, unfortunately, deteriorate further on his way to 87. So he could consolidate his gains in the first term and leave in good stead and take a chance on a successor, a new generation.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of put your your money on the table in terms of calling for Biden to step aside. And the question that is being asked is, can the Democrats replace Biden? Yes, if he steps aside. No, if he doesn't. And then there's also questions about who replaces him and whether, Harris could step up to the plate. We've seen varying polls around support for some higher, some lower. What are your thoughts in a scenario, Prof. Stremlau, about a replacement by force or a replacement by choice?
Well, the choice was going to be Biden's, but there you raise an interesting question. African Americans were vital to his resuscitation of his candidacy in 2020, and if he's been very good in appointing African Americans to positions from the Secretary of Defense on down, and his spokesperson right now is an African American. And the African American community has been very strong for Biden and saying that the real challenge is to beat Donald Trump. If they could be persuaded that Biden runs the risk of losing, and if Kamala Harris proves to be the campaigner that I think that she is, then I think that the possibility of persuading Biden to step aside increases dramatically. The fact that he confused Kamala Harris with Donald Trump in his remarks yesterday at the press conference just amplifies this problem that he has had with flubs throughout his career. But the fact is that he's 82, or will be 82 on assuming office. Mandela wisely stood down, and Biden should as well, I think.
Is he the only one, though, Prof? I mean, people are asking, are we being too hard on Joe Biden? Donald Trump, George Bush, others. I think someone even talked about former President Ronald Reagan as well. This happens from time to time. Should we see it through that lens or in a more serious way? I mean, we are already talking about it in a far more serious way.
Well, I think we should take it in a very serious way. The prize is, and the African American community has been remembering this prize, it's to beat Donald Trump. He would be bad for racism in America. He would be bad for nationalism in international affairs. He would disregard Africa as he did in his first term. But now he's got a plan to really deregulate the U.S. economy, which means climate change and a variety of efforts to make America more equal and open to all people, united in its diversity. This is the last gasp of the Make America Great crowd that wants to reassert Christian white male dominance. And I just think that he's got to be beaten. And so that's the real prize.
Aside from the politics of personality, which you've just suggested is not just about the politics of personality, it runs deeper into what kind of presidential ticket each candidate comes on and what the implications for American politics and society will be. But I want to talk about this issue, Prof, and there are criticisms of the power of money in America to determine political outcomes. In 2010, the U.S. Supreme Court took the Citizens United decision, which gave people that have money the green light to spend an unlimited amount or unlimited sums of money on ads and other political tools to ensure that it was their preferred candidates that succeeded and made it. What's your view on this, and how has it in the years ensuing influenced, determined American politics and decisions?
Well, you're touching on a very complicated subject, but it's a subject that ought to be on this agenda for the democracy, the future of democracy, liberal democracy in America, and that is the court system that the U.S. has, and the approval of justices by the small rural states in the Senate that have disproportionate power that is creating, and Donald Trump, if he was to win, would accelerate the movement toward deregulation and the court justices. But now the 6-3 majority that was already a majority back in 2010 is hard on. And you noted that the recent decisions about overturning the right to abortion and the recent decisions of immunity for the president, which means a dictatorship of a sort, is really very bad. And you're raising the question of funding. I don't like the fact that big donors come in and influence the politics of it. But the big donors are now telling, like George Clooney and the entertainment industry in California, that they're losing confidence in in Joe Biden, so that maybe, at least in the short term, the donors can play a role in getting Biden to step aside.